It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in at Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. NFL Week 3. I'm Jeff Parles. Happy to be with you as always, alongside Vinny Magliulo, the Hall of Famer himself, the pride of Long Island.
Good morning, Jeff.
Morning,
How are you, buddy?
Vinny.
What do you say?
I'm good. I'm
Right.
good. And then on the far side, in the Calvin Ridley Atlanta Falcon jersey, Alex White. Alex will be with us every Saturday and Sunday throughout the college and NFL season, of course. Last man standing champion in college football over at Stations, but a good week last week in the NFL as well for you, Alex.
Very good week. I'm excited about this one. A little bit tough slate we have, but some good games on the board, that's for sure.
Vinny, before we get into today, because, by the way, Coach Prime and Colorado still giving up touchdowns to Oregon as we speak.
Probably.
About 15 hours later. So yesterday, you just wanted to bring this up before we get into the games today. The handle yesterday was just bonkers.
You know, we knew we had a terrific slate yesterday, right? I mean, the schedule played out really well, and of course, it was highlighted in the mid-afternoon by the Colorado-Oregon game, and of course at 4:30. Notre Dame and Ohio State. Compared to last year's corresponding week, all right, week 4 in college football, the handle was almost double here at the South Point. Now that speaks to, again, a great schedule, but it just speaks to how popular things, college football is and how much it has grown. But also, the folks coming here to the South Point and enjoying the betting menu that we put out, right? I mean, it really, and that energy really transcends the entire property. And again, we salute our locals who support the property and come here on a regular basis. We got a great crowd in from out of town this weekend. A lot of folks from the Pittsburgh area here for the Steeler-Raider game tonight, which will be a terrific game. We'll get to that and how the money is coming in on that game. Jimmy Vaccaro is going to join us in a little bit.
Yes, he will.
With some his specialty, the big tickets, and going over a couple of things on how we do things here. So a great day. And by the way, yesterday was one of the more popular bets. And I know Alex is looking over today's, but we put up first team to score. Okay.
Time of game.
Now that's time of
day,
game,
guys.
not time of day. So don't look at your watches when you. But yesterday, Chris Andrews, our director, God bless him. He gave out a nice gift to a few folks yesterday. So anybody that had Rutgers yesterday to score first touchdown, by the way, not first score of the game, but the first touchdown of the day. Yesterday, Rutgers, 200-1. So I'm at the counter yesterday. I walk out right after Rutgers scores, and the guy comes running up to the counter. He's got a ticket in his hand, and he's waving like this, and he's got a smile bigger than his body. Okay? Hey, who scored the first touchdown today? And he's waving the ticket like this, and he's jumping up and down right at the first window. I said, probably the team that you have a ticket on, right in your hand, right there. He goes, I said, you tell me. He said, Rutgers. Sure enough, 200-1. So him and a few folks were the beneficiaries of a generous payout.
Of course, those markets up for the NFL today. The first touchdown of the 10 a.m. Pacific window. Vikings right now favored, Vinny.
8-1.
8-1.
Yes.
You're not going to find a 200-1 on.
No, you won't find a 200. But your long shot today is the Colts at 25-1. Alex, you like anybody on the first touchdown of the day?
25.
I may take the Chargers 10-1.
Chargers at 10-1. There it is.
Jets aren't a long shot.
The Jets? Well, they're 25.
I was going to say
they're up there. Co-long shots.
It may take them more than a while to score a touchdown today.
A little bit of weather. A little bit of weather there. We'll
a little bit of weather.
So great day yesterday, and we're looking forward to today with a lot of good carryover.
All right, let's get to it. 451, 452 on your betting cards. Vinny, Alex, we talked about this a little bit through the week. A game that anything is possible in Minneapolis today. The 0-2 Chargers and the 0-2 Vikings. Vinny, J.C. Jackson, the big offseason acquisition for the Chargers, a healthy scratch today in the secondary. So just showing how that has gone so far through two games for L.A. This is a 1-point line, favorite flip. Chargers open favored. Now Minnesota won 53.5. The highest total on the board pretty easily this week in the NFL is that game in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned the Chargers won on the opener. We're at 1. We did get down to pick, but the Vikings are presently a 1-point favorite here at the South Point. Total did get as high as 54, so a little bit of under money has come in off of that. And again, that 51.5 opener. Eckler is out, but you mentioned it. The defensive injuries for the Chargers continue to mount. They haven't played good defense all season, Alex. Neither has Minnesota, but no surprise here with this total.
Absolutely. Now, I was actually looking at the over, but stayed away with Austin Eckler being out. I'm still shocked that both of these teams are 0-2, so should see a good game. I lean Chargers here.
Okay. All right. Chargers.
Both of these teams have lost one-score games to begin the year. We only talked about it all season when Minnesota
That's
undefeated.
right.
Exact opposite from a year ago.
Best record ever in one-score games, and now 0-2 in one-score games to begin the year. I have a little more confidence in Minnesota to be able to steer the ship the correct way than the Chargers, which may be opposite of what a lot of people are thinking.
Well, the healthier team, too.
They're healthier. Yeah. They play in a weaker conference, a weaker division by a wide margin, and better coached. I think Kevin O'Connell,
Right.
I think Kevin O'Connell is a good NFL head coach. Even though that defense has given up a bunch of yards, they have been better against the pass. They were the worst pass defense in the NFL a year ago. Brian Flores replaces Ed Donatell. They still haven't been good, but they've been better through the first 2 weeks. Chargers, it's over for Brandon Staley. And if they lose today, they get the Raiders next week. They have an early bye. If they're 0-4 into the bye, Staley's not there in week 6. I feel fairly confident about that.
Probably not.
As long as Spanos is not too cheap and willing to actually pay 2 coaches for a season, which is a big if.
That's happened before.
Yes, happened a few times in this league. All right, next game, Tennessee at Cleveland. Of course, no Nick Chubb. Ended up being an MCL tear is what knocks Chubb out after that gruesome-looking injury on Monday night. Titans coming off a overtime victory against the LA Chargers a week ago. They're 1-1. They've covered both games as underdogs, Vinny. Now an underdog yet again, and an underdog that has been bet this week, down from 4.5 to 3.5 as we sit right now.
Yeah, and it's got as low as 3. And again, we don't move the money here at the South Point on the 3. If it needs to get off of 3, whether it's 2.5 or 3.5, whatever the case may be, we do it. And that's a matter of philosophy. It's not a critique. We can, over the years, I've done both, but it depends on the operation. So again, as bettors, you have the choice to look out there and see what's available. But you mentioned it, 3.5 did get as low as 3, high of 4.5. So support here for the Titans on the way they've played. And again, wondering, Alex, what the response is going to be to the Nick Chubb injury. This total, by the way, down.
4 points.
From 42 to 38.
So that did help lean me towards the Titans. I am on the Titans plus 3.5. My only worry is Ryan Tannehill. The Browns defense has been fairly good.
Good point.
I just don't think Deshaun Watson looks the same still to this point. Now they don't have Nick Chubb. As you mentioned, Titans favored in the last 2 weeks, covered in the last 2 weeks. So I am with Tennessee today.
It's interesting with Cleveland because the defense has been great through the first 2 games.
That's been good, yeah.
Jim Schwartz replacing Joe Woods, as big of a coaching upgrade as we have seen through 2 weeks for a coordinator, head coach, whatever way you want to slice it. That defense has been very well coordinated through 2 weeks. 3 points for Cincinnati.
That's right.
Pittsburgh got basically all their points off of defensive touchdowns a weekend ago.
Yeah.
It's just one of those games where can Deshaun Watson actually look like even a top half NFL quarterback? He has not been that through 2 games or the 6 games he played a year ago for Cleveland.
No, it's a completely new set of circumstances for him, new system and everything like that. And again, this is not college where he has to do too much. The fact that he has a good defense, just be serviceable if nothing else until you really find your rhythm. And that to Alex's point, that has not transpired yet.
Let's get one more here before our good friend Jimmy Vaccaro stops in, Vinny. Houston and Jacksonville. This AFC South matchup. Texans 0-2. 0-2 against the number. Couldn't cover against Baltimore week 1, even though they had numerous chances to. Lose at home. against Indianapolis. Don't come close to covering the number. Jacksonville, pretty lucky cover in week 1 against Indianapolis.
Yes.
And then last week, can't get it done. Can't cover as a 3.5 point or 3-point home underdog against Kansas City last week. Vinny, for whatever reason, Jacksonville, and yes, mixed in there has been some really bad Jacksonville teams over the last few years, but Houston has won 7 straight in Jacksonville. Yeah. They have, for whatever reason, played very well down in Duval County.
They have owned this matchup.
And it's down from 9.5 to 7.5 now on Jacksonville at home against the Texans.
Another dog getting money here. 2-point move to the dog here at 7.5. Now, at what point? And again, what is the function of line movement? Right, is to find that balance or that buyback. And I think if this game does in fact get to 7, and it's an early kickoff here, so 10 o'clock Pacific. Alex, I suspect that we'll see Jags money at 7. Now, Jags are in a lot of teasers, so even though the move is there, not that you're just going to hold or necessarily move off of teasers. But right now, 7.5. I suspect that 7 would 7 interest you on the favorite?
It absolutely would interest me because I actually have them in a teaser with the Ravens. I got them down to 1.5. Yeah, I like this game. I think ETN has a great game here because of the Texans' bad run defense, and I have Jacksonville on my survivor, so I would take the 7 too. I'm all in on them, and the Ridley jersey. It kind of works both. I got
You need a number 0 Ridley.
That's right.
Down there in Jacksonville. A survivor. Just bring that up real quick. Jacksonville, Kansas City, Dallas, depending on how your pool happens to work.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 that were the most popular.
That's without point spreads.
That's without point spreads. Just win the game outright. I went Kansas City today. I'm not in the one that you need to save one for Christmas. And quite frankly, if I were in that one, I would just want to get to Christmas and worry about it.
Be in a good spot. Be in a good spot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was debating between those two.
Yeah, we'll get to the Bear-Chief game a little later. There's been a lot of weird stuff going on around the Bears off the field this week as well.
As the Bears turn, a little soap up. That's pretty good.
Very good.
Thank you.
A nice 8.5 out of 10 there. That was good.
Okay.
That was good. But it's these divisional games. You can get some weird results, and
sure.
I will say this with Houston. And they have not looked particularly good. They look undermanned, which is what we expected going in. But they look better coached than they have over the last few years with David Culley 2 years ago and Lovie Smith there last year. I think, again, it's going to take time. The roster is bare bones.
Sure, yeah, it's a rebuild.
But Ryan's, he knows what he's doing, and it's evident through 2 weeks.
Look, there are teams that are lower in the power ratings. Obviously, Houston won. But I have to tell you, when we're looking at surprises, quote unquote, so far, right? We mentioned, the Chargers being 0-2 so far. Well, some of the surprises, not so much are records, but watch how teams compete. Houston is competing.
Yeah.
Phoenix, they're competing. Right? Arizona, they're competing. Washington is a big surprise. Not only competing, but they are 2-0. So these are professionals, and these are people fighting not only to keep their to make the roster, but to get in here, but then to keep their jobs.
On the flip side, I'm looking at the Jags, too, with that terrible performance against the Chiefs, looking for a bounce-back game right here because they got a lot of hype before the beginning of the season as well, especially for their offense. So
favorites in the division, yeah.
Yep.
We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, Jimmy's in studio. Jimmy Vaccaro joins us next. Big tickets aplenty here at the South Point. It's Sports by the Book at the South Point studio. Welcome back in to South Point Studio. Sports by the Book is the show. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White on the far side of the desk. Vinny Magliulo alongside, and American treasure himself, Jimmy.
Senior advisor. I like to be called that.
Come on, Jimmy.
I'm 77 years old. I'll be 78 in about 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, right. I want a big party right here.
We're going to do it right here.
I want these lights to come up in Chandler.
No lights? Okay. We can
use candles.
Before we get started again, the young lady, obviously, it's finally we waken up and brought someone very pretty to the set also.
That's right, Chunks.
Everybody out there, because I hear it all the time, they're tired of your mug, Chris's mug, and my mug. And young man, you're catching up pretty
I'll get there eventually, Jim.
Yeah,
You'll be a month like the rest of us.
I'll get there eventually. I got a few years to go, but I'll get there eventually.
Jay, I just want to point out, and Jimmy mentioned as he came through the crowd, literally, I mean, just how busy it is, and it's great because there's a lot of energy, right? And we feed off of it too. I mean, this gets and Jimmy will comment further on it. You have this much energy in 12 windows, 11 kiosks, 3 windows in the race book, and of course the mobile app too. Mm-hmm. And the buzz throughout the property. Jimmy, it gets bigger every week.
Well, obviously, let's go back to 1978 when Michael opened up the little sports book at the Royal Inn Casino between the Stardust and what the Hilton was way back when. I remember like getting people like, let's upgrade the board a little bit so people could see what the numbers are. And we had these big chalk things. They screeched whenever so you're like, oh, please don't change the number because you had to, whatever. And then as Vinny just pointed out, it's like Super Bowl Sunday anymore, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And one of the reasons, so let's call it like it is also, is like there was a time when the people who supposedly knew the racket was like, we don't want any other state infringing upon, whatever. But we found out it just creates new customers.
There you go.
Because if you're around, you're going to come here. And like, put it this way. We have never, ever written less business than the previous year, with all these states jumping in here, and there'll be some more states jumping in there. So one more time, this is a new time of sports books. Mm-hmm. And me and Vinny, like we were around there when there wasn't that many people coming into town. So here we are with all of it, and we're having fun. We've taken about 20 bets for $20,000 all right. And remember this, here's why this is going to be a monster weekend. The biggest and best game of the day is the last game of the day. The Steelers versus the Raiders. And trust me, well, I grew up around that area. They hate each other. Yeah. They literally do. I mean, they would do anything to try to beat each other. For
so long, Jimmy, both of those teams, they had to go through each other to have, for the season to be successful or not, right?
And again, as Vinny pointed out earlier, with all the kiosks we have, we even open up the race book with 3 windows to obviously to help somebody, because what we'll see for the next hour to kickoff is it's like insanity. But, and you know what, to some degree, even the customers are feeling more of like how to do it when they get to the sports book. Mm-hmm. Instead of like staring at the board, they understand that they should have their tickets ready when they get here. This helps quite a bit. So it's fun. Like I said, we've been doing this all our life, and most of us have been doing it all our life. It's going to be unique. So stick around for the next few months, kid. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Those 20 dime tickets, Jimmy, what do you have?
We had, first of all, I got to tell you guys, I had my shirt on backwards, and the girls behind the counter, but they had me, and they were pointing and making fun of me. Yeah. And I said, you were
just testing them, though, right, to see if they were paying attention.
No, they wanted $40 so I could tell them to change. This is Michael. Michael's in the back. If he's seen this, he'd fire me. If he didn't.
Well, he's watching right now, so now he knows.
He is in the back. That's right. Here we are with all these tickets, Vincenz. Here's something of like why we still know to some degree it's just like there's a lot of people who don't understand the racket and whatever and bet a lot of money. We had the Steeler game at, you could take +3 for about 4 days. And now it's getting back and forth. We've been taking the +3, the -2.5 to +3. Now, Vincenz, tell them what the liability could be, but we never change our way of doing business.
I mean, 3 being the most critical number, right, in the NFL, as we know. And it comes down to probably about anywhere from 15 to 20%, probably about 17% on average, right? And if it comes 3 and you've either – especially if you've gone through it. So let's say a game is 2.5 and they lay it, you go to 3. They lay it again, you go to 3.5. If you're bouncing back and forth, that's called a middle. You get middled on the game if it falls 3. Everything on 3, right, gets refunded. Everybody that laid the 2.5 gets paid. Everybody that took 3.5 gets paid. Or if it's 2.5 and 3, like we've seen with this game here, bouncing back and forth, if everybody gets paid that bets the Raiders at less than 3, and then we get sided. So that still 3 is a refund. So never fun, but guess what? No matter what happens, we'll be open tomorrow.
One note real quick, because Chris Andrews just texted you and I, Vinny.
Yeah.
Another $20K bet on the Falcons, 3.5. So back to 3.
Back to 3 on the Falcons.
3.5 that touched momentarily.
Yep. They took the 3.5 with the Falcons, and the Lions are now back to 3, Jeff. Yep.
I shouldn't tell the guy out there, but I will because, first of all, it doesn't matter if we tell somebody they're doing it wrong, that they don't care less about what we say. But I'm holding a ticket for $22,000 to win $20,000. Steelers plus 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy's a nutcase because he's going to take in 3. If he keeps taking the 2.5 in the games with 3, he'll be broke by Thanksgiving. So just,
Will he even make it to Thanksgiving?
It's a possibility. I mean, it's like, well, I got my bet. No, you didn't, you knucklehead. You got plus 2.5, and the game's going to be 3 back and forth. So, but here we go. Why would I tell them? Because it doesn't matter whether I try to tell them. You know, we're still a nice place. If you ask us a legitimate question, we'll give you a legitimate answer.
And he'll tell you that he doesn't need that half
That's
point, right?
exactly what he'll tell me.
That's
so
right.
when I see his ass out on Las Vegas Boulevard looking for a handout, you'll know he keeps this wrong. What, you're laughing at me?
No, I'm laughing at what.
It's only 20,000.
That's only $22K. Yeah,
Right.
22 to win 20.
And how about this one? Would you make this bet, young lady? Would you bet on the Bears at all?
I did not bet on the Bears at all this week.
Well, this guy took it
Against
for
the
22,000. And again, he took a bad number. He took 12.5. He could have taken 13 for his lungs, but he didn't. This is the strength of laying 11 to 10. I call it like it is. And we've never lost for the year. We've had down years that, like, we didn't obviously have something that we had the year before. But the biggest thing that people like me and Vincenz, we just got to keep seeing people come in here.
Right business.
And then,
right?
it's an entertainment value that, like, it's lumped in anymore.
And it's the great social
my goodness.
part of the casino, of the property, right?
Absolutely.
Right, Jimmy? I mean, we always oftentimes talk about it.
They obviously, you'll see people who didn't know each other, then you'll see them talking, then you'll see them in here next week.
Yeah.
And they'll come back and they've made new friends. But like I said, keep guys like me off the street. So just keep coming in.
And then there was one other big ticket as well, right?
What are you hollering at me for? I'll find it.
so you need the Steelers today.
There it is.
Yes,
Would that be
right
ideal?
Now. Yeah,
One right
right
there.
now.
Yeah.
Of course,
This is my favorite one,
the
George.
It
rest
is?
of the day's going to.
No,
Correct.
See, it doesn't matter how bad the team is as long as you're getting value with your bet. Now, this guy is not bad. There's 12.5s on the Cardinal game everywhere, but he took 13 for 20,000. That's the way he's supposed to play it. If you pass and don't miss if you missed the 13, go sit down and have a glass something to drink. But don't run up and take plus 2.5. But once again, as I said, we're nice guys too.
You know, Alex asked, we're going to need the Steelers today. As of now, yes. I mean, but let's remember, too, that game positioned as the primetime game tonight is going to have everything going to it. Not just from today, but from Thursday and yesterday as well. So it probably will still be that way, but just exactly how much. But what we don't need is the Raiders by 3.
And also, let's help out my cousins and your friends back in Stratford, Pennsylvania. They'll be smashed by the time this game goes on. Trust me.
Oh,
But you
A lot of Steeler fans here in town. A lot of Steeler fans here at the South Point. Yes.
Meanwhile, I'm the only guy in the Trafford, whatever. I had the Raiders today with the Franco Harris pick.
The Immaculate Reception.
I lost my ass off because I was the only one who had the Raiders. And this, you remember, the game was blacked out in the Pittsburgh area. So me and my dog in my car, my little broken down station wagon, drove around for 5 hours to find out I blowed my cash 5 years of, but whatever. I still get aggravated when I'm the only guy that had the Raiders that day. But you know what? I survived it.
They're still here. Attaboy, Jimmy.
You done with me yet?
Oh no, you are welcome to stay as long.
Well,
as
I don't want to stay that long. I got things to do.
Oh no, you have to get on the mic out there.
Yeah. Bet type, bet number, bet amount.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's an
South Point
institution.
staple.
Let me tell you something. When you have to hear it, and it's on, we're going to keep it recorded. It's like Bob Shepard at Yankee Stadium, right? Still
did Derek Jeter till his last at bat.
Exactly right.
Wow.
So there it is. An institution.
Chris will be over in a little bit. Nice seeing you again, young lady.
I'll
You
see
too,
you in a
Jimmy.
few
Thank
minutes.
you very much,
See you in a
Jimmy.
little bit.
We got to get pictures of us 4 together and put them out here.
We'll do it right. And you have your camera with you today?
We do it mid-segment.
Do we go
All right.
another
We'll do it. All right. We'll get the photo.
We'll get them.
See you guys.
Thank-
Everybody have a good.
All right. There
Thank
he
you
goes.
very much, Jimmy
There he goes,
Vaccaro,
right?
everybody, as always. American treasure himself,
That's right.
bringing in the big plays that the South Point has taken throughout the day today and the weekend. When we get back, more in the NFL. Vinny, weather of the Meadowlands.
Yes.
Possibly an impact for some bad quarterback play that we expect in that game.
Ouch.
And more next here on Sports by the Book.
Ouch.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Big thanks, as always, to Jimmy Vaccaro for coming in. The best of the best.
Greatest.
The best of the best.
He mentioned the 1978 at the Royal Inn. I was a dice dealer right next to the sports book, and then went to the sports book on my days off.
Vinny Magliulo, Alex White alongside. Vinny, how many years between you and Jimmy in Nevada now?
Jimmy, Chris, and I, 137 in Nevada. Again, I
You got to add some more.
qualify
for
to high school and college for
middle school. No middle
tuition.
school for you.
Well, actually, you could, 7th grade. We'll
That's
tell
middle
the story one day about the 1969 World Series with the Good Sisters of St. Joseph. That's right.
That was good. I was a good result for the local team.
It was
that
a
year.
good result for young Vincent Magliulo.
Oh,
I can tell you that. So
very
excellent.
good. All right, let's get into these games. Got a bunch to get to here. To the Meadowlands first. The Jets and the Patriots. The last time the Jets beat the Patriots, Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. The Jets were winning their 10th game of the season in Week 16 before they lost to Buffalo and missed the playoffs in 2015. New England has won 14 in a row in the series. And, Alex, they are favored again today, 2.5. And the lowest total on the board that has clicked back up a little bit to 35.5 here at the South Point, though.
What did it open at, though?
37.5. We opened it on Sunday night, Alex.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the play. Under 37.5. It is moved
Right at the beginning. Yeah.
right at the beginning. And I missed that, so I have no play here. I'm not taking the points with the Jets. If there was a 3, I may think about taking the +3.
We had a 3 yesterday, briefly, Alex. So keep an eye on it. But again, the weather here is a tropical storm. I think is what's playing into this total, certainly.
Yes.
And again, these two offenses have not been very good so far. But as you mentioned, it did tick up from 35.
14-mile-an-hour winds, 64 degrees, about a 75% chance of rain. Offenses that aren't any good. Quarterback play that's mediocre. Vinny, 3 on the Jets was a take.
Yeah.
But 2.5, nah, nothing here. The only thing that would surprise me here is if we have 5 total touchdowns between the teams, Vinny. That would surprise me. Because that would mean the game's going over because someone's kicking a field goal in this game.
Well, then 35 would have been your play.
I think
over 35.
Honestly, I think the 35.5 is just about right. So,
yeah.
No thank you on the total in that one. All right, let's get to this one. This is a big mover this morning because there are a whole boatload of Green Bay injuries.
Yeah.
And, Alex, this is one of those where you did it last week against Green Bay, and you got the good number again with New Orleans. Saints, Vinny, now are favored. They were not a favorite until this morning. Packers without 5 starters, including Christian Watson, who still has not played yet this year. They have Bakhtiari's out again for the second consecutive week. Jair Alexander.
Aaron Jones.
On the defensive side, Aaron Jones looked like he wanted to play, did not given clearance. And then Elgin Jenkins, a starting offensive lineman, out for Green Bay. So this is now a whole 3-point move. Packers open 2-point favorites. And now as we sit here 30 minutes before kick in Lambeau, New Orleans a 1-point road favorite.
And we're starting to see 1.5s on this one. So we are presently at 1, and this is injury driven, no question about it. Total down to 41.5, which is down about 1.5, 2 points, Alex. So I don't know if you have an opinion on this one.
I made the game pick 'em, so I ended up taking the Saints +2.
Good.
Wasn't my favorite bet of the week, to be honest, but now with the move and the injuries for the Packers, feeling pretty good there. Derek Carr has not impressed me in that Saints offense just yet. Their defense has looked good, but we talked about this before the show. The Packers have looked, especially eye test, they have looked fairly decent this year.
Surprisingly well, yeah.
Yes.
Jordan Love's Pro Football Focus numbers are near the bottom because he has a bunch of interceptable plays. I think he's looked pretty good. He's looked better than I would have anticipated.
I would agree.
And that was a game last week that Green Bay, quite frankly, should have won last week against Atlanta. Falcons found a way at the end to move to 2-0 and cover your number, Alex, but not the closing number. That was one of those where you needed the good number in the middle of the week. And wouldn't shock me if that happens again today with a close game with New Orleans and Green Bay. All right, Vinny, the dog is taking money in this game that we're going to go to next. Denver and Miami, 461, 462 on your betting sheets. You know, this is an interesting one because you open a full touchdown on Miami.
Mm-hmm.
It's now 6. Total open 47, now 47.5. I'll just ask you this, Vinny. When you have a team 0-2 versus 2-0, which is what this game is, Miami, great offensively week 1. They did enough last week in Foxborough to get the win against the Patriots. Denver doesn't lose home games in September, and they lost 2 in a row to open the season.
Yeah.
But the bettors, this is something that happens where a team seemingly at the height of their power rating, where I don't think it's going to be the height for Miami, but some may think it could be, against a team at the bottom of what their rating could be with Denver this year. And people have taken Denver down to 6 here.
Well, we just, and again, we give it to you in real time here on Sports by the Book. Right, South Point just went back to 6.5.
There you go.
They took 7 initially with the Broncos, figuring that, hey, listen, Dolphins coming home, right? We talked about that the Broncos were home for their first couple of games. Now the Dolphins come home. Their defense was not good until it mattered at the end of that Charger game. And again, they went up against a New England offense last week that was not very good. But I think their defense will get better as the season goes on. With Fangio as the DC there. But right now, 6.5 just went up from the 6, 47.5. Not a lot of movement on this total. We did have a high of 48. I don't know if you have a play here, Alex.
No, but I definitely understand the Broncos' money. I mean, this team could actually be 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Their first 2 weeks, and last week they had that failed 2-point conversion to lose that one. First week they could have beat the Raiders. That one was down to the wire. And then I think I was very lucky to cover with the Dolphins last week against the Patriots. So I stayed away from this one. I like that Dolphins team a lot. Didn't want to lay that, but wasn't ready to back the Broncos.
And an important point too, Alex brought up, a stay away, but pay attention to the game, pay attention to the line movement, and of course what transpires in the game and everything like that. But as bettors, you don't have to bet every game.
Right.
There's enough of a betting menu. We've got to book them all, and that's fine, but there's other options too, and you've got the props. You've got again, team to score the first touchdown, team to score the most points today, as well, which is another prop. It's very enjoyable by the folks. Long shot there, the Cardinals today at 100-1, and that's for the most points. Look at that, 100-1. But
I think
and
you're
then
on that one.
Team totals.
I think so.
Team totals as well. So a lot of props. And again, of course, the end game. So a lot of options too. If you don't see a game before it starts, maybe there's something that you want to get involved with once the game does start, including halftime wagering for the second half.
Let's go to the Beltway now. Buffalo and Washington. Vinny, you're at 5.5 on this game. Bills laying it at the 2-0 Washington Commanders, as we all expected. 43.5.
Yeah, we all knew that.
Vinny, I'll just ask you this, because this, at least to me, with watching Buffalo during this run, where they have won the division a few years running now, and Allen has taken the leap from below average quarterback to one of the better ones in the league. This is the type of matchup where Buffalo usually overwhelms a team that is not as talented as they are. So I got taking 7. I even got taking 6.5 with Washington. But I'm a little surprised that this is, and there's a 5 in the market even on this game.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that this game has gone past the 6 here with Washington, the 5.5.
6.5 opened here at South Point on Sunday night. Not a lot of belief so far in what we've seen. I think the bettors in terms of the Bills, right? You mentioned Josh Allen too. The thing about Josh Allen, he takes a lot of hits, Jeff, and he's like one hit away from perhaps an injury. Now you could say that about any quarterback at any time, but he does take unnecessary risk sometime, and I think that plays into what people are looking at. And the Bills have been inflated over the last couple of years, and people look. There's a value with points. When these games in the NFL, especially, Alex, they come down to that last possession, then if you get at or near a touchdown, then there's value there. And again, professionals particularly, although this is definitely, the public is all over the dog here too, with a pretty decent defense and a good receiving core, and Sam Howell's been serviceable, okay? I got to tell you that that's what I think people are migrating to.
I think you said it perfectly, Vinny. Very good defense. They've also had a very balanced offense. Sam Howell has done good and done plenty on the ground. I have 6.5 in a contest. I didn't actually make a bet, but you know how the contests go. They're just as important.
That's right.
The record through the year.
I mean, also, too, taking good numbers in contests.
That's right.
If they lose, so be it. I mean, that's getting a whole point in contests across the board on the 6.5. You know, this is, for Washington, this is a big step up in class.
Yeah.
Arizona should have won that game week 1. Honestly, Arizona should be 2-0 right now, as ridiculous as that is.
They could be. They could very well be.
A 3-touchdown lead in the second half against the Giants last week, blow that. Leading in the fourth quarter against Washington in week 1. There is absolutely a case to be made Arizona should be 2-0. And then Denver, I mean, look, the Broncos just can't get out of their own way right now. So this is a big step up for Washington. And I'm very curious to see how they handle the step up in class. And again, I'm lower on Buffalo than the market is. I think the Bills are the second best team in the AFC East. Now with Aaron Rodgers out, I think Miami is better.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still a playoff team. And they still have a defense that will show up against bad quarterback play, Vinny. So
we'll find out.
We will find that out in about 3 hours and 20 minutes. We'll know how Sam Howell and company handled that test with Buffalo. All right. Here's a game Alex and I are opposite on, Vinny. Detroit and Atlanta. I'm with the public here. I laid 3. Vinny, you guys went to 3.5 not that long ago and gobbled right up and back to 3 on Detroit here at the South Point.
Actually, gobbled 5 and everything from 5 down to 3. That was the opener. You know, when you look at this game, I think the Falcons they're the overall healthier team in this matchup,
Correct.
right? We talked about it with the Chargers-Vikings game, and I think it's a similar situation here. Points at a premium. Like I said, they took everything from 5 down to 3, but right when Jimmy was in here, Chris Andrews texted us that there was a play on the 3.5. So now we're toggling between 3.5. So folks laying the 3 with the Lions, but taking 3.5. Again, from our perspective, just don't want a 3 by the favorite in this game. Total, not a lot of movement. Holding it's pretty steady at 47.
I'm wishing I had 3.5 right now, but I do have +3 on the Falcons. They have covered for me the last 2 weeks. We're going for 3 in a row here. Injuries on the Lions, like we mentioned, and we that was a fear for a lot of people because they did have the Lions rated so high and the favorite in their division, and they said if the one thing that would take them down would be injuries this season. So I also leaned to the over a little bit.
47.
We haven't last year Lions great over team. Haven't seen that so much this season. Last week though, overs went 13-3. These two weaker defenses. Thinking we could see some points here.
Wouldn't shock me if that over gets there. You know, and I don't love being on the side of public contest sides, which was what Detroit was this week at the 3. But it just feels like for me where Atlanta, this first time on the road, won both of their home games.
They did, yeah.
And they were fortunate to beat Green Bay last week. And Detroit, as of this moment, to me, is better than Green Bay. And the Lions are coming off of a game that, quite frankly, they should have won that game last week against Seattle. Defensive touchdown early
Lost
in the second half. Lose in
yeah.
overtime, never see the ball. This feels like a good bounce-back spot for Detroit, and I'm only having to lay the traditional 3 at home. That's the main reason that I went with the Lions, and it would not shock me if you and I are getting refunds in this game when it's all said and done either.
Great.
Sorry, Vinny.
Great.
But it would not shock me at all if this game lands at
Next
3.
game.
As we'll move to the next game at the request of Mr. Magliulo right there. All right. This is an interesting one because weather is potentially an impact in Baltimore. Yeah. The old Baltimore team, the Indianapolis Colts, against the new Baltimore team, the Baltimore Ravens. You know, so Gardner Minshew is starting for Indy. Anthony Richardson is out in concussion protocol. The Ravens are missing 7 starters.
Yes.
So there are a lot of injuries and key ones today across the board in this game. Vinny, 43.5 current total. Baltimore 7.5-point favorites right now.
Did go just right now to 43.5 off the 43, Jeff. So, just about a point difference off the opener. They took 8. They took 7.5 with the Ravens. This is another one, and we talked about it earlier. when it was the Dolphin game. Probably a take. Or they'll maybe lay the 7 with the Ravens. I mean, or certainly there'll be a teaser play even with their injuries. The fact of the matter is they've got injuries, as you mentioned, on both sides of the ball. So weather could be an equalizer here too, Alex. We pay attention to that, particularly if there's wind. But 7.5 holding steady right now.
7.5 is too much for me. I did put them on a teaser with the Jaguars, so need them to win by 2. You're on the other side for this, or you lean?
Indy in a contest. I didn't get there on the bet. It's interesting with the way we perceive Gardner Minshew at this point, because there was a point last year, early in the year, where there were legitimate discussions before Philly got off to that great start, where, hey, is Philly starting the right quarterback with Jalen Hurts over Gardner Minshew? There were discussions before the season last year.
A few years ago, Minshew Magic T-shirts everywhere, right? The guy's a warrior. The guy battles.
He's a very good backup. And I'm just curious here today because, Vinny, we talked about the rookie quarterbacks, and we'll get to another game where another rookie is out in Bryce Young. Anthony Richardson has looked the best of the 3 rookies so far.
Of the 3 starting quarterback, of the 3 rookies, yes. Look, he's reading the game better than his contemporaries, and I think that's been the difference. But again, he got hurt in the first game. He couldn't finish the first game with a leg injury, and then concussed. So, but yeah, look, now we're going to start to see. You can say, well, you don't want to overreact in the week 1 to week 2 and things, but now we're going to start finding out more about these teams. As we get into the 3 and 4, we're going to get through September, and again, with only a really condensed preseason, especially with only 3 preseason games. September, there are teams still really trying to sort things out. Now you add the injury factor to this. These are you combine both of those factors. It's important. So we'll find out a lot more about these teams and exactly what we're talking about, and has to do with primarily with the quarterback play.
It's the one game that, again, I really am looking at also from an in-game perspective today, because if Indianapolis is struggling to move the ball, this is one of those where, all right, we get an early score from Baltimore. That total is near that 43.5. We'll take it under. Yeah. That is something I am looking for in this game. This is one I have targeted in-game wagering today. All right, let's go to the late games here. 405 East, 105 local in Seattle. Well, talk about the rookie quarterback getting disrespected in the market, Vinny. He's not playing, and everyone's betting Carolina now.
They're betting the veteran. They're betting a veteran quarterback in Andy Dalton. That's what they're betting, and they're betting against an inconsistent Seahawks team over the first 2 weeks of the season. By the way, the dogs. We're going to find out if the dogs are barking, because I can tell you right now, the dogs are getting a lot of attention today. So this is another one. We just went to 4.5 on this game.
Yep.
And so we did open it 5. It's interesting because initially it went up before the Bryce Young news.
Well, you guys opened before we saw them on Monday.
We opened at 5 on Sunday.
Yeah, we opened them
Sunday
5
night.
on Sunday. Then we saw them, and the number went up.
And the number went as high as 6.5.
Yeah.
So now with the Dalton announcement, you say, well, why are they betting? Why are they betting? They're betting the fact that there's stability. I mean, Carolina's defense has been pretty good.
They were good last week again, yeah.
But Young has clearly got a lot to learn, and this is again a play on a veteran quarterback here.
No play for me. That's funny you say the dogs. We'll see if the dogs are barking, but it's only week 3, so I mean, the smarter side is to go for the dogs with the points, right? That's why I stayed away here. Big fan of the Seahawks team. They have underperformed though in the first 2 weeks, so I'm not ready to lay 6.5.
The one thing I'm going to ask you this, Vinny. Seattle's always been looked at as this mega home field advantage, especially when they're good. Week 1 this year at home, Rams beat them up in the second half. Last year, they weren't quite the dominant force that they were at home. In a year that they made the playoffs, is it time to move that home power rating down a little bit on Seattle?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, we've moved them all, but it's still one of the better home fields. I mean, when you look at the noise in the environment, again, visiting teams have a difficult time. Of course, by the fourth quarter of that Rams game, there wasn't a whole lot of noise.
No,
pretty much. People were in shock, but it's still one of the stronger ones. Again, just to recap it, years ago it was an automatic 3, right? A field goal for the home team. That is not the case anymore, particularly in the pros. I mean, your average right now in the pros is probably 1.5. On average. And there are some teams, believe me, they have no home field advantage. I mean, look, the Chargers are just there's more visiting fans.
There'll be more Raider fans there next week. I can tell you that right now.
I can tell you that. Well, LA's got a huge Raider following from the time they were there. So, yeah.
All right. Now we get to the two big favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start in Arizona first. Cardinals 0-2, Cowboys 2-0, dominating fashion for Dallas in the first 2 weeks, 70-10 in the first 2 weeks against the Jets and the Giants. The Cardinals, as I said earlier, there's a legitimate argument to be made that this Cardinal team very easily could be 2-0, but they
compete.
They are well on their way to perfecting the competitive tank. Well on their way to doing that. Vinny, this is down now. Was 13 earlier, now down to 12.5 on Dallas, laying it in Glendale, Arizona, with a total of 43.5.
Yeah, they took the 13 here, and again, it's a play on the number and the fact that the Cardinals battle. Trayvon Diggs lost for the season for the
torn
Cowboys,
ACL.
which is a big loss because I think they're right up there with the Niners, or they were probably Niners about point difference in the power ratings right now, but. That's a big blow to their defense. Their offense is very good. Their defense is playing great defense, started by the defensive line. So we'll have to see just how they adjust to the loss of Trayvon Diggs here. But again, sitting at 12.5, they'll be these 3 games we're going to talk about now in the afternoon are going to get a lot more play and probably a lot more line movement in the afternoon, based on not only that play but what's going to them from the morning.
Yeah, and these two big favorites, I don't have any play on. I do understand, though, with the Cardinals, they lost by 3 in those first 2 games where they were supposed to lose by quite a bit and shut out the Giants in the first half. So we'll see how this goes. But Cowboys clicking on all cylinders. They looked very good through 2 weeks.
Through 2 weeks, San Francisco and Dallas are the 2 best teams in the league through 2 weeks. And now,
absolutely,
for Dallas, the argument can be made, all right, they played the Giants, who don't look particularly good, the Jets with Zach Wilson, they get the worst team in the league power rating-wise in Arizona today, and then they get New England next week. But then they play San Francisco week 5, which will be an unbelievable game on Sunday night on October the 8th.
Yes.
So we'll be looking forward to that one 2 weeks from now for sure. All right, the other big line, Kansas City, Chicago. Boy, what a weird week for the Bears off the field. Justin Fields calling out their coaches. Alan Williams no longer the defensive coordinator in Chicago. This is 12, Vinny. Down to 12 now, actually, after being higher earlier in the week on KC at home. Total 48. I have no idea what I'm getting out of the Bears. I would not shock me if this is a beatdown. It would not shock me if the Bears actually play this game competitively and lose and cover.
Pro team, got to put everything aside, right, and fight for jobs, and on both from a staff perspective as well as a player perspective. But again, down to 12 from the 12.5, never got to 13. Maybe it will, depending on what happens again with the morning games and what's going to it. 48 for the total, which is down a couple of points. So more moving on the total than the number on this one out.
Made the Chiefs 14. Not going to lay that many with them, but we are going to see Justin Fields start to run again a little bit, right? Is that what we got out of that whole conversation?
Maybe.
Might be running for his life.
That would be my thing. Kansas, the one thing with Kansas City, because the whole talk with KC is the offense doesn't look right.
Right.
My takeaway is the defenses look great. Usually early in the year, during this Andy Reid era, that defense looks bad in the first 6 weeks of the season. Through 2 games against 2 teams that I think they're both top 10 offenses in Detroit and Jacksonville. 2 touchdowns for Detroit, no touchdowns last week for Jacksonville. Yeah. That defense has looked really good through 2 weeks.
With and without Chris Jones.
Well, Chris Jones was really good in his debut last week.
Oh, yeah.
But Kansas City's defense, that's the big thing for me through 2 weeks. That it looks like a top-flight defense, and if that's the case, look out. Look out. 'Cause
Yep.
that's a scary sight. With
Their
what the
offense
Chiefs are.
will get in sync, especially if they can sort out their receiving core.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. As long as 15 stays upright, I think KC will be okay long term. All right, Vinny. Sunday Night Football, due north of here at Allegiant Stadium. Raiders, Steelers. It's good to know that. I didn't know that Jimmy was on the Raiders in the Immaculate Reception.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think he stayed out of town for a couple of days
Don't
as well.
blame him.
Yeah.
Don't blame him on that. Vinny, we've talked about this a lot. Toggling between 2.5 and 3.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much anything but Raiders by 3 is okay.
You know, here's the thing, too. And again, we put up the numbers here at the South Point on Sunday night. Chris Andrews, director here, unveils them on Sunday night. The Steelers were a 1.5-point favorite.
Right.
You know, so now, again, when we get to the to the Monday night game, you hold up on it just to see, you know, if there's any injuries. Or, I mean, of course, you know, then you had the Chubb injury that occurred. So that's why you hold up on it from our side of the counter. A classic example. But it's been all Raiders all week, and they got as high as 3, and that was the take back. So the 1.5 didn't do a whole lot of business on Sunday night. But all week long, it's been about the Raiders. Now we sit at 2.5. Jimmy indicated, you know, we took a couple of 20-dime tickets on +3 and +2.5, actually. So 43.5 on the total. Not that much movement here, but it's going to be a great atmosphere, not only at Allegiant, but here at South Point and throughout Las Vegas.
It's going to be a lot of fun here. Alex, did you end up playing anything in this game or no?
So this is a game that I'm actually going to be kicking myself. I made the Steelers -1. Had to find some other things to play for my entries. Went to my dad and my grandpa's lines. Grandpa has the Raiders -4, so I ended up taking Raiders -2.5. I'm on the home team tonight. I'm looking at the quarterback play. I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's way more experienced than Kenny Pickett, so thinking they can get it done.
I'm very interested to see how the Steeler offense looks tonight. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They were bad in week 1. I'll give them a pass against San Francisco.
We're not good
Great
last
defense.
week either, right?
And last week, they only won that game because Deshaun Watson turned the ball over twice, and it turned into 14 points the other way. I want to see how Pickett looks. I thought Pickett was going to build off of what he did at the end of last year, and he has not through 2 games. And there are a lot of cries for Matt Canada's job, the offensive coordinator, and maybe correctly so. But I want to see how Pittsburgh looks tonight. I don't think this Raider defense is overly good.
Right.
They have a few elite pass rushers. Chandler Jones is still out. Other than Crosby, I don't really like this defense on the Vegas side. So I want to see how Pittsburgh looks against again, maybe they've played 2 of the 5 best defenses in the NFL the first 2 weeks, and now they play a bottom-tier defense in Vegas.
You're breaking down the fact that, Raiders probably with a better offense.
I agree.
Steelers with the better defense. Neither team's been able to run the ball real well, though.
Jacobs
so that's
been bad so far.
And we got, of course, tomorrow night.
Well, tomorrow,
double header.
Don't worry. Tomorrow night,
Love
you and I are back tomorrow.
We are.
3 to 4 here on the show. Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. We'll have 2 games tomorrow. The big action on Tampa that we'll talk about tomorrow night on the show. And hopefully by then we'll know if Joe Burrow's playing or not, Vinny.
Well, because that game, there's a difference here. Let's just look at those games, too, real quickly. Eagles open 6.5. They're down to 5 in Tampa Bay. The totals bounced as high as 46.5, which is 2 points off the opener to the over, now back down to 45. And then, of course, the Bengals, the whole thing with Burrow. Now, originally we opened this game 6 on Sunday night, and then we had to hold up on it with the Burrow news. We reopened it at 3, and it's toggled back and forth between 2.5 and 3. I'm not saying that if he plays, we're going to go right back to 6. Probably about 4, though, because we know for a fact that he's not 100%. So Chris Andrews and I touched base on that before. But those are the current numbers for tomorrow night. Eagles 5 at Tampa, and the Bengals presently 2.5 at home against the Rams.
Surprise 2-0 team in Tampa in action tomorrow against Philly and the Bengals again. Burrow doesn't play, and it's Jake Browning staring 0-3 in the face. You don't come back from 0-3. So we'll see how it plays out. Alex, any before we go, just what anything tomorrow yet, or are you just going to wait it out?
I'm going to wait it out. I didn't look too much. Once you told me the current total for the Eagles Bucs, I might look at that over.
Yeah.
Over 45 in that one.
That's all the time we have.
Yeah.
Get to your South Point app. Get to your South Point
That's
Sports
right.
app. Get your plays in. You have about a minute and a half to do it for the 10 a.m. local Pacific time slate here in the NFL. For Alex White, for Vinny Magliulo, shout out to Ann and Jerry in the corner, doing a great job as always to get us on the air. I'm Jeff Parles. Good luck on all your plays. Have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Week 3 in the NFL. This has been Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.